Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting in 1 minute. I would like to invite Gideon of UNHCR to take us through a quick navigation of the WebEx platform in 1 minute. Gideon, if you can hear me, kindly take the floor. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this symposium. I will quickly show you on a few tools within WebEx that are going to be essential for this symposium. The most important is the interpretation. So if you check within the WebEx window at the bottom left corner of your screen, you'll see a small circular icon that looks like a globe. If you click on it, this small icon window comes up, and you can click on the drop-down icon to select the language. As of today, we have 2 languages for interpretation, French and Arabic. You can select either of the 2 for your listening. The other icon that may be important is the raise hand icon. It is the icon that I'm pointing at. It looks like a hand. Click on it if you need to speak or to have an intervention. But I would encourage all to use the chat function if you have any intervention or anything that you need to say. Again, it is very important to please mute your mics during the session. If you are not a speaker, if you've not been given the permission to intervene, please keep your mics on mute. And if you find that the session is a bit slow on your end, or you cannot hear as well, please switch off your video and maybe seek an alternative internet source. Thank you, and all the best on the session.
Thank you, Gideon. We are going to kick off the event right now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Apio, and I'm the Regional Emergencies Gender-Based Violence Coordination Specialist for the Gender-Based Violence Area of Responsibility, based here in UNFPA, Nairobi, Kenya Country Office. I do lead the GBV AOR's work stream on preparedness, prevention, and inclusion. And I am the co-chair of the intersectionality pillar of the regional GBV working group for East and Southern Africa region, together with George Odwe of Population Council. Today, I will be moderating the symposium event together with George Odwe of the Population Council. I would like to give you a very brief background of today's event. Today's regional symposium event on male, child, and adolescent survivors of gender-based violence builds on the barrier analysis study conducted in Kenya in 2021 under the Care and Adolescent Survivors Initiative, which is a project implemented by the Gender-Based Violence Area of Responsibility together with the Child Protection Area of Responsibility, with funding support from the Swiss government. The intersectionality pillar of the regional GBV working group that is hosting today's event was formed in February 2021, following a regional survey conducted by the regional GBV working group that revealed the need to address the intersectional issues that defines the experiences of survivors of gender-based violence, specifically how gender interconnects with other oppression and vulnerabilities, particularly age, sexuality, displacement status, disability, among others. Today's regional symposium is dedicated to addressing child and adolescent survivors of gender-based violence. I would like to acknowledge the contribution of the members of the intersectionality pillar of the regional GBV working group namely UNHCR, Plan International, Save the Children, Sonke Gender Justice, UNICEF, Tia Fund, among others. And more specifically, I would like to extend our appreciation to the Alliance for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action, which is co-hosting today's event with us. Now, I would like to hand over to George Odwe of Population Council, also co-chair of the intersectionality pillar, to take us through briefly the expectation of today's events. Over to you, George.
Thank you very much, Christine. I'm also delighted to participate in this special symposium. And many of you may be asking why this symposium. So sexual violence against children represent a deeply traumatic and severe violation of their rights, dignity, as well as safety. So this issue affects both boys and girls, albeit often in distinct ways, with unique drivers and consequences. So sadly, sexual violence against boys frequently goes unrecognized or unacknowledged. Furthermore, there is insufficient knowledge and action concerning this problem, resulting in a significant gap in our global understanding, research, prevention, and response to such violence. So the expectation of this symposium, we anticipate that this symposium will serve the following purposes. One, highlight the key trends in sexual violence against boys and adolescents, understanding the key barriers that prevent disclosure and access to services, and identify mechanisms to address these barriers. We also expect the symposiums to help us understand the challenges faced by service providers, facilitate sharing of knowledge and best practices among participants, increase awareness of inclusive programming among GBV and child protection actors, and finally, provide a platform to identify key advocacy actions. So, dear participant, it's now my pleasure to introduce our next moderator, Loreen Wesonga. Loreen serves as the Regional Advocacy Advisor, CARE International, and also co-chair of the Regional GBV Working Group for East and Southern Africa. Welcome, Loreen.
Thank you very much, George. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your participation in this symposium. So in this session, I will be facilitating the first session where we will be getting our keynote addresses. I'm sorry about that. And I hope you can see my screen. So today, as part of the introduction keynotes for this session, we have 5
Sorry,
keynote
Loreen,
speakers.
we can't see your screen.
I'm sorry?
We can't see your screen.
You cannot see my screen?
No.
Oh no, perhaps I will just speak then so that we avoid the technical difficulties. We do have 5 keynote speakers today for our first session, and I will just read out to you who they are, and then we will get them to make their remarks. Some of them will have recorded their remarks, and some will be speaking to them. Our first keynote speaker is Najat Mjid, who is a special representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. Our second keynote speaker is Mamadou Dian Balde, who is a regional director of UNHCR, East Horn of Africa Great Lakes Emergency Coordinator for the Sudan situation. Our third keynote speaker is Hani Mansourian, who is a co-coordinator, Alliance for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action. Our fourth speaker is Brikena Zogaj, who is the External Engagement Senior Advisor, Child Protection and Participation, World Vision, and is also the co-lead of the Alliance for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action. Our last speaker, who will be joining us a little later, is Dr. Eugene Kongyoni, who is a Deputy Director, UNFPA, Humanitarian Response Division in Geneva. So I am going to take us straight to the first keynote speaker, Najat Maalla Mjid, who unfortunately could not join us in person virtually, but we do have a recording. We do have her recording, and I'm going to ask Gideon to please go ahead and share the recording. Over to you, Gideon.
Am I the only one who cannot hear anything? I
also can't hear.
Me too, I can't hear anything. At the moment, I can't see anything and I cannot even see the screen.
And we extend our gratitude to Maalla Mjid for giving us that that first keynote address and really setting the pace for us as we start the session today. So our next keynote speaker is Mamadou Dian Balde, who is a regional director UNHCR, East Horn and Africa Great Lakes region, and the emergency coordinator for the Sudan situation. Mamadou, please, before Mamadou starts, allow me, participants, to just address two key housekeeping issues. One, please, if you have issues with the hearing, if you cannot hear the proceedings, please put that in the comments in the chat. We are monitoring the chat, and we are asking participants to please keep your microphone on mute. Secondly, if you feel comfortable, do go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box as well as we continue with the proceedings. Back to you, our second speaker for our second keynote speaker, Mamadou Dian Balde. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we do. Loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Lauren, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to all of you for coming and having joined this symposium. It is really my great pleasure to join all of you for not only coming together, but also for coming and putting our ideas and experiences together and to shed light on the issues affecting the male child and adolescent survivors of gender-based violence. We need to continue working together. If there is anything that you can see in the list of participants, it is to show that we, whether national NGOs, international NGOs, UN organizations, partners, government, civil society, donors, if there is anything that needs to be a testimony of what we should be doing, it is this one. So we are all together here, and we need to do much more than what we have seen so far. So allow me to really stress, following on the SRSG, a few points, and in fact 6 of them. One of them is that while we have made significant strides on initiatives to address the needs of the male child and adolescent survivors in the humanitarian context, more must be done. More must be done by all of us to ensure that they have access to care when they need it, regardless of the status that they have, whether they are refugees, whether they are internally displaced persons, whether they are just people affected by the conflict and unable to move. So more must be done despite all the progress that we have been making. And I'm sure that throughout the symposium, you will be discussing progresses, we'll be discussing good practices that you have seen, but more must be done. That's really the first point I wanted to emphasize and to underline. The second point I wanted to emphasize is that is really the togetherness, the partnership. It is critical that we work together with government partners. In all these contexts, I know that we have our own processes, but 2 key actors are relevant in order to make sure that the support to these persons in need of protection, this very specific segment of the population in need of protection, can be done only if we are able to work together with government partners, not only at the national level, but at the local level, as well as civil society organizations, particularly national civil society organizations. This is an opportunity also for me to thank all women-led organizations that are participating in the symposium, but as well as all partners who are doing their best to develop the capacities of national systems. Capacities of national systems is one that will make all these efforts sustainable. So first point, more must be done despite all the progress, or in light of all the progress made. Number 2, the importance of partnership and working with both government at national and regional level, local level, as well as with national institutions. Number 3, one can say that this symposium is really a response to a call that several of us hear. It's a call by women and girls who have stressed the importance to engage with men and boys of all ages to prevent violence, to educate, to nurture a community where male advocates are at the forefront of nonviolence, or if they are not at the forefront, they are parcel of advocating for the eradication of gender-based violence. This is very important for our societies. This is very important for our communities. So I want to say and thank again the organizers for this event, because the event is also a response, is a way of responding to that call. Number 4 that I would like to emphasize is that, and this was a bit raised earlier, is that we need to use this symposium as an opportunity to take stock of progress, identify good practices for replication, and as well as identifying areas that need to be strengthened. I really encourage all of us, either during the event, but also outside the event, to make sure that we network, we foster learning, we share experiences, good, bad, and to making sure that we are really using much better the resources we have, human resources, material resources, financial resources we have with greater level of outcome. Finally, before ending, is really to thank all of you who are participating here. Again, local institutions, national NGOs, our donor partners, because again, as we bring this partnership together, I'm sure we'll have greater chances of addressing some of the most important protection issues we are all faced with in the humanitarian settings, whether we have forced displacement, whether we have people who are affected by the drought, and all these various situations. Finally, just to say that at UNHCR, we remain committed into working with you, partnering with you, learning with you, engaging you, in order to make sure that we address these unique protection needs of male children and adolescent survivors in humanitarian settings, but also in all settings where we work in. Finally, just to say again, as I give back the floor to Lauren, I really wish you all the best, Lauren and team, as you move on these next steps. These are very, very, very important events. They are critical. It is opportunities for us to reflect and to see what we are doing, whether we are really achieving the greater level of protection outcomes, and also to learn from others, to see how others have been doing things, how they have been, what have been the learning, and to help all of us really to move to the next level. So just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity, and we remain committed to addressing this major protection issue. Back to you, Lauren. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mamadou, Dian, Balde, for your remarks and for your keynotes, and placing emphasis that we must do more, that togetherness and partnership is a way to go. Looking at this symposium as part of a response to a bigger conversation that we've been having before, and we're moving it forward and saying how do we engage with men and boys, and also highlight the GBV issues around male child survivors. Looking also at this as a place for learning, and for us to the beginning of us to share knowledge and exchange and get best practices. We thank you again for your remarks. I'm now going to introduce our third keynote speaker for today, and that is Hanzu Mansourian, co-coordinator for the Alliance for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action. Sorry, Hani Mansourian, please go ahead. The floor is yours. Hand it to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lorraine, and great to be following Mamadou and Dr. Najat with your really clear and important points that you made related to this issue and the importance of this symposium. And also thanks everyone who has been involved, particularly the GBVAR East and Southern Africa Working Group's pillar on intersectionality for your leadership in hosting and coordinating this event. So as mentioned, I coordinate the Alliance for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action, which is a global network of operational agencies, academic institutions, policymakers, donors, and practitioners. We facilitate interagency technical collaboration on child protection for all humanitarian contexts. As many of you know, the minimum standards for child protection and humanitarian action, which are companion standards to the sphere standards, outline key actions, indicators, and guidance for prevention and response to child protection risks. This includes sexual and gender-based violence affecting children. In 2019, we did a review of the standards, and Standard 9, which is on sexual and gender-based violence against children, was also reviewed. In this process, the child protection community was very intentional in maintaining a focus on both boys and girls, as well as children of diverse gender identities and expressions. So if you go to Standard 9 of the minimum standards, you will see the emphasis in that whole spectrum of survivors. Over the years, the child protection sector has made significant strides towards better supporting children affected by sexual and gender-based violence. The Caring of Child Survivors Guide and the recent Child and Adolescent Survivors Initiative, among others, have done great service to the sector and on this journey. A good example of some of the gains that have been made in the recent past are the work that has happened on forced marriage, early and forced marriage, and work on harmful practices. A lot of these were gained in collaboration with the GBV colleagues and the GBV sector. Thanks to the great success of the GBV sector in the past years, a lot of the recent gains have been focused on delivering for girls and women. I'm ready to bet that everyone in this room is happy about these successes. However, we probably all agree, as mentioned before, that this is not enough. We know that many boys also suffer, often in silence and isolation, from the impact of sexual and gender-based violence. Due to obvious reasons, also as indicated by Dr. Mjid, we are unable to have a clear estimate of the number of boys who are victims or survivors of such violations. But what we know for sure is that what we can see is only the tip of the iceberg. We welcome SRSG Najat's impassioned cause and those of others for continued collaboration and efforts. Mamadou also emphasized specifically on partnerships. I think it's extremely important that we work across sectors towards the gains that we are hoping to have in this area. Today's symposium provides an excellent platform to join our efforts in this regard. While it's also critical that we acknowledge the specific differences between male and female child and adolescent survivors, we strongly believe that the target of our efforts should be the issue of sexual and gender-based violence, regardless of who the victim is. Now, it's extremely important to continue providing services to survivors, whether they're male, female, or children of diverse gender identities and expressions. We need to double down on preventive measures. And if there's one key message that I want to leave with you guys today, is this element of prevention. We need to start thinking about the root causes much more than we have been doing in the past, and really trying to address those root causes of sexual and gender-based violence while we continue the services. Now, in terms of services, we definitely look to our GBV colleagues to help us learn and grow in this field, benefiting from their experience and expertise. We also would like to join forces with our GBV sisters and brothers on the ground, those who are working in the field, in providing much needed services to all survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. As you all know, such specialized work is incredibly difficult in humanitarian crises, when we need to urgently scale up our workforce and systems to effectively meet the needs of the vast numbers of children who are affected. We would like to encourage simple, practical, targeted ways of targeting root causes of sexual and gender-based violence for all children. We would like to see partnerships with survivors, communities, and across sectors to move the needle on this issue for all children. It's really fantastic to see the lineup that we have for today, all the upcoming examples from research practice that will be showcased today in this event. As the Alliance, we will be following how this work plays out and explore how we can support in bringing it to scale. I would like to wish you all a successful symposium today and a strong collaboration to follow. Over to you, Lauren.
Thank you very much, Hani, for that, and for your remarks, and for placing emphasis on what our other two keynote speakers have spoken about, the need for partnership, the need to do more, the need for better collaboration, the need to learn from each other, co-learning from our GBV colleagues, and emphasis on the issue of sexual violence and also giving it the lens of humanitarian action and saying the complexity of these spaces and the fact that we need very practical, very easier to implement measures that can address the challenges in this particular context. And of course, doubling down on preventive measures, getting to the root source of what it is we want to, what it is that causes the sexual violence. So I am going to move us to the next speaker, for our next keynote speaker, and that is Brikena Zogaj, who is the External Engagement Senior Advisor, Child Protection and Participation World Vision, and who happens to be the co-lead of the Alliance for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action. Over to you, please.
As long as these boys are not paid with money, then it is not abuse. This is a community stance regarding boys engaging in sexual relationship for food and clothes for themselves and the family members that they have to care for. This was years ago in the context of a health programming in Herat, carried out from World Vision Afghanistan, which led in a holistic multi-sectoral approach.
I think we have a problem with the interpretation. We can hear, unless it's just me.
I'm sorry for that technical difficulty, Brikena. Could you try again? Let's see if we can hear you.
Sure, of course. As long as these boys...
That's perfect. Go ahead.
As long as these boys and girls are not paid with money, then it is not abuse. And this is a statement from the community regarding boys engaging in sexual relationships for food and clothes for themselves and family members they have to take care for. This has happened in the context of a health program in Herat, carried out from World Vision Afghanistan years ago, which led in a holistic multi-sectoral approach, including Child Protection Action Network, families, communities, faith leaders, but also boys and girls. Obviously, this has planted to me the drive to advocate for and with boys and girls to ensure their protection in realities where the protection rights of these vulnerable boys and girls are often overlooked, but particularly the protection right of boys ignored and even put in the competition with the girls' protection. So my name is Brikena Zogaj. I'm Senior Advisor for External Engagement in the Global Child Protection Participation Team in World Vision International. But World Vision is also honored to co-lead the Alliance for CPHA, for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action, alongside the government, the permanent co-lead, UNICEF, a network. The Alliance, as Hani mentioned, is a network of 255 agencies focusing on protecting girls and boys in humanitarian contexts, where they are particularly vulnerable to sexual abuse. The three key messages I would like to emphasize are the following. First, reinforcing Hani's message on prevention. A multi-layered prevention strategy, prioritizing boys and girls, is essential to reduce vulnerability and to intervene in cases of sexual violence. This could not be done without the centrality of girls and boys in any response, program, and advocacy endeavors. And this is the goal of the Alliance for Child Protection and Humanitarian Action in our current strategy. Second, there's lack of data on intervention for boys and girls affected by sexual violence, and most likely, this is due to the rare interventions on this matter. But symposiums like this help bridge the gap. Third, families, communities, child protection systems, media, all have roles in preventing sexual violence against boys, but they need a better understanding on this issue. And this could also be one of the root causes that Hani mentioned. I'm happy to see how this event is actually contributing in nurturing this understanding. And in terms of understanding, I've been grateful of studies such as Caring for Boys Affected by Sexual Violence, conducted from Family from Every Child in 2018. But I've learned more than from any other sources. I've learned more from the survivors hope and braveness, which can be contagious and inspiration for all of us, both during the symposium and beyond. I would like to share a quote from a representative of a brave movement, a movement which is an esteemed partner for World Vision International. And Brave Movement is a group of survivors of sexual abuse and have achieved remarkable advocacy outcomes. One of its founders shared the following: my uncle, who abused me and my 3 brothers, was still a teacher, was sexually abusing countless boys in class. I had to break my silence for them. We have to be brave so that children could be saved. I would like to close my message with this quote, urging government, individuals, alliances, APRs, donors, boys and girls to do extra mile, not just during this symposium for some of us, but also in the future, so that both boys and girls can be protected and safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those remarks. Going back to telling us we need to do proper messaging on the centrality of the issues. Going back to what Hani said around data, lack of data, probably what you're getting is a tip of the iceberg, but also echoing what Hani talked about, going to the and also support survivors who are brave. And thank you also for mentioning for us about partners who are doing work on this and studies that are being done on this, because this bridges the knowledge gap that we have in this, and it helps demystify these and strengthens peer learning. Thank you so much. I am the last speaker for the day, the introduction session, for the introduction keynotes. And our last keynote speaker, last but not least, very important, is Dr. Eugene Kongunyi, who is a Deputy Director, UNFPA, Humanitarian Response Division in Geneva. Dr. Eugene, thank you for joining us. Over to you. I know Dr. Eugene was running late. I'm not sure whether they're in session.
Sorry, Laureen, sorry to jump in. We're just trying to follow up with Dr. Eugene. Maybe just a couple of seconds. I've seen him typing a message. I hope he's able to join. Or okay.
Sure.
Okay. Unfortunately, I've just seen and Dr. Eugene is unable to join. So perhaps I would like to request maybe Jessica could come in.
Jessica Gorham.
If he's on the line, yes. So maybe you can call upon Jessica to say something on behalf of the GBV. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Jessica, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and thank you for stepping in. Go ahead. We can't hear you. Christina Pio, can you hear Jessica?
No, we can't hear you, Jessica. Sorry, Jessica, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Great. Sorry, everyone. Well, welcome to this symposium. We're really proud as the regional working group for East and Southern Africa to host this symposium. As was mentioned, this is the second year that we have focused and dedicated our resources and time on really trying to understand better the needs of men and boys in terms of prevention, but also in response services. I want to thank the intersectionality pillar, who again has really highlighted some of those needs, and then also how we can work together to meet those needs. As mentioned, my name is Jessica. I am the Regional Emergency GBV Advisor working on behalf of the Gender-Based Violence Area of Responsibility, and that is the global coordination mechanism for gender-based violence in emergencies. And I'm also the co-chair of the Regional GBV Working Group for East and Southern Africa. So welcome everyone. I think many of you have probably received emails from myself or other members of our team here in East and Southern Africa. And it's so great to see so many of you on the line today. On behalf of UNFPA, which is the global lead of the GBV AOR, and of course our team here regionally and globally, we'd like to really welcome you today. And I hope that you can take a lot of the learnings, which we will hear about throughout the day, and apply it to our own work. And more specifically, if you are working on gender-based violence in emergencies, please do reach out to your counterparts at country level and regional level to learn more about how you can engage and mitigate risks for both adolescent and child survivors, male survivors of gender-based violence. So I won't take too much time because I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. It's really great to see so many of you on the line. And I will do a reminder for our speakers to come. Please do speak slowly because we do have lots of translation going on. So if you could speak slowly in your sessions, and then also if you're off mic, that would be appreciated by our translators. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to a successful day to come. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And thank you to all our other keynote speakers as well. You have set the pace for us in terms of how the rest of the symposium goes, with an emphasis on partnership, with an emphasis on learning, with an emphasis on collaboration, emphasis on data, emphasis on working with the government, working with our national partners, our local partners, our civil society. And I thank you very much for taking time to share your insights with us. So we officially wind up this first session, and I hand it over back to Christine and George. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the symposium.